I used to think I was living the American dream. I had a beautiful wife, Jessica, who was not just my partner but also my best friend. We had a house in a nice neighborhood, two cars in the driveway, and a golden retriever named Max. We were the envy of our friends, always sharing laughs, love, and dreams for the future. Jessica was a dedicated professional working in diversity and inclusion at a major corporation, and her passion for social justice was something I admired deeply. But as I would soon discover, it was also the very thing that would set our lives on a completely unexpected trajectory. We had been married for 5 years when the first signs of trouble began to emerge. At first, they were minor things, little shifts in her behavior that I brushed off. She would come home later than usual, claiming she was caught up at work or attending networking events. Her phone buzzed constantly, and she would often excuse herself to take calls outside, rolling her eyes at something I couldn't hear. The warmth that used to fill our home began to feel absent, replaced by an unsettling distance that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Then there was the night I noticed her scrolling through her texts while I was making dinner. I caught a glimpse of a message from a coworker, Sam, a name I recognized but didn't know well. The message was innocuous enough, just a reminder about an upcoming team meeting, but it lingered in my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Over the next few weeks, my intuition screamed at me, but I couldn't gather the courage to confront her. I wanted to trust Jessica to believe that she would never betray me. But then the bombshell fell. It was a Saturday afternoon and I was organizing some boxes in the garage when I found a forgotten envelope. Inside were old receipts and cards. Among them I stumbled upon a hotel receipt dated just a week prior, issued to Jessica and a man named Sam. My heart dropped to the pit of my stomach. I could hardly breathe. My mind raced as I replayed the last few months, all the little signs I had ignored. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the sudden change in her demeanor, it all made sense now. I confronted her that evening, my heart pounding and my palms sweating. I laid the receipt on the table between us, the cold evidence of her betrayal glaring in the twilight. Jessica's reaction was a mix of shock and defiance. She tried to laugh it off, dismissing it as a harmless business trip. "It was just a conference," she said, her voice dripping with insincerity. "You know how these events can be. Networking, late nights, it's all part of the job." But I wasn't buying it. I could see the guilt behind her eyes, the way she struggled to maintain her composure as I probed deeper. A business trip, in a hotel, with Sam. Come on, Jess, just come clean. At that moment I felt a swell of emotions, anger, betrayal, confusion, but most of all an overwhelming sadness. The woman I thought I knew, who I trusted with my heart, was standing before me, spinning a web of lies. I had loved her fiercely, and now I was drowning in a sea of deception. We went back and forth for what felt like hours. She finally confessed, albeit reluctantly, that there had been an affair. It wasn't just physical. Had developed feelings for Sam. The emotional impact of that revelation hit me like a tidal wave. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the realization that my entire reality had been built on a lie. I felt like my heart had been ripped from my chest. I had given her everything and she had tossed it aside for some fleeting thrill. As tears filled my eyes, I struggled to find my voice. "How could you do this to us?" I finally managed to say, my voice cracking. In that moment, everything felt surreal. I was left with a choice. Either fight for the marriage I thought we had or walk away from the ashes of a love I once cherished. I needed time to think, to process the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. I didn't know where to go from here, but I knew one thing. I couldn't let this define me. I needed a plan. The days following the confrontation were filled with a suffocating silence. Jessica and I moved around each other like ghosts in our own home, the weight of betrayal heavy in the air. I oscillated between anger and despair, replaying her confession. In my head like a broken record. She had turned our life upside down and I found myself questioning everything. How long had this been going on? Was I just a fool, completely blind to the truth? I took time off work, telling my boss I needed to deal with personal matters. I found myself wandering around the neighborhood, lost in my thoughts. Max, our golden retriever, followed me everywhere, sensing my turmoil. He was my only comfort on those lonely evenings, his loyal companionship providing a flicker of warmth in the otherwise cold house. I started spending more time at the local park, where I could sit on a bench, watching families and couples enjoying their lives, and I envied them. I wanted to reclaim my happiness, but I also wanted revenge. One evening, as I sat on that park bench, I made a crucial decision. I would not let Jessica's betrayal destroy me. Instead, I would channel my pain into something productive, something that reflected the values she claimed to uphold in her work. If she was going to cheat on me with someone from her diversity and inclusion program, I would show her what true integrity looked like. That would become my brand. I started drafting a plan for a nonprofit organization that would genuinely promote integrity and inclusiveness. I wanted to create a space where people could come together, share their experiences, and support one another through honest dialogue. This was going to be my way of reclaiming my narrative. It would be a positive outlet for my pain and betrayal, rather than wallowing in bitterness. The first step was to gather information and resources. I reached out to friends and colleagues in the nonprofit sector, sharing my vision and seeking advice. It felt exhilarating to have a purpose again, and I began to pour my heart into this project. I spent my evenings researching, writing proposals, and networking. I felt invigorated with each step I took, slowly shaking off the dark cloud of despair that had settled over me. Meanwhile, Jessica seemed to sense the shift in my energy. She would ask about my late nights and the documents I was working on. I could see her trying to reintegrate herself into my life, but I was determined to keep her at arm's length. I was building something that didn't involve her, a foundation of integrity that was my own. Whenever she would press me for details, I would simply smile and say, "Just working on a new project. I'll fill you in soon." I could see the frustration simmering beneath her surface, but I didn't care. She had forfeited the right to my trust. A few weeks later, I officially launched my nonprofit, Integrity First. The mission was clear: to provide a safe haven for individuals facing discrimination and to promote genuine inclusivity in the workplace and beyond. I organized workshops, seminars, and community events, all designed to encourage open dialogue and foster understanding. The response was overwhelming. People were eager to support a cause that resonated with their own experiences. As the organization began to grow, so did my confidence. I found myself surrounded by passionate individuals who believed in the power of integrity. Every event we hosted felt like a small victory, a step toward healing, not just for me but for countless others seeking a voice. I embraced the joy of helping people who had faced challenges similar to my own, and it became clear to me that I was on the right path. Jessica would occasionally try to engage with my work, suggesting partnerships or events that she thought would be beneficial. But each time she did, I could feel the bitterness bubbling up. How could she suggest ideas for a mission that she had betrayed so completely? I always kept my responses polite but distant, reinforcing the boundaries I had put in place. As I threw myself into this new venture, I hardly had time to dwell on the hurt she had caused. There were moments when I would catch her looking at me with longing or regret, but I couldn't afford to go down that path again. I had rebuilt my life around integrity and purpose. I found solace in the fact that my pain was transforming into something meaningful, a stark contrast to the betrayal that had initially shattered me. But deep down, I knew that I hadn't fully confronted my feelings about Jessica and the affair. I still felt anger, resentment, and sadness swirling beneath the surface, waiting to be addressed. I had made progress, but I needed to confront her one last time to truly move forward. It was time to address the unresolved issues between us. I felt that if I didn't, the wounds might fester, and I was determined to ensure that wouldn't happen. I needed closure. One evening, after a particularly successful event for Integrity First, the adrenaline from the day still coursing through me, I decided it was time to have the confrontation I had been putting off. I needed to talk to Jessica, to lay everything bare and find a way to close this chapter of my life. As much as I had enjoyed pouring my heart into the nonprofit work, there was still a part of me that felt incomplete, a part that needed clarity and resolution. I found Jessica sitting in the living room, the glow of the television casting a soft light around her. She looked up as I entered, her expression a blend of curiosity and apprehension. "Hey, you," she said, trying to muster a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "How was the event?" "It went well," I replied, my tone neutral. "But that's not why I wanted to talk." I took a deep breath, feeling my heart race as I prepared to address the elephant in the room. "We need to discuss what happened between us. I think we owe it to ourselves to be honest." Jessica's demeanor shifted immediately. I could see her tensing up, her defenses going up as if she were bracing for an attack. "I thought we were past this," she said, her voice defensive. "I've apologized so many times. What more do you want from me?" "I want the truth," I stated firmly. "I want to understand why you did it. I want to know how you could betray me so completely and still look me in the eyes as if everything was normal." Her expression faltered, and for a moment I thought I saw genuine remorse flicker across her face. But then she steeled herself again, crossing her arms. "You're being unfair. People make mistakes. You know that, right? We all mess up. It doesn't define us." "Is that what you tell yourself?" I shot back, my voice rising. "That it was just a mistake. You did mess up. You chose to cheat on me with someone you work with. You hid it, lied about it, and then acted like it was no big deal when I found out. That's not just a mistake, Jess. That's a breach of trust." She sighed heavily, the tension in the room palpable. "What do you want me to say?" I was feeling lost. The pressure of my job, the expectations. I didn't think it would lead to this. I wasn't thinking clearly. "So you thought it was okay to seek comfort in another man?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite the emotional storm brewing inside me. "You thought I wouldn't get hurt, that it wouldn't destroy everything we built together." Jessica rolled her eyes, her frustration bubbling over. "You're acting like I planned this out. It just happened. You have no idea what it's like to feel that kind of pressure. Maybe if you had been more supportive, I wouldn't have sought it elsewhere." The nerve. I could feel the anger rising again, but I forced myself to remain calm. "You're blaming me for your choices. That's not how this works. You don't get to shift the blame. You're the one who made those decisions." She opened her mouth to respond, but I continued, not willing to let her dodge the truth. "I trusted you, Jess. I believed in you. And now I feel like an idiot for having faith in someone who would betray me for a few stolen moments." Her face twisted in a mix of anger and pain. "I regret it, I do, but I can't change the past. I can't take it back. Can't we just move on?" "No," I said firmly. "We need to acknowledge what happened. This isn't something you can just sweep under the rug and hope it goes away. You hurt me, Jess, and I need to know if there's any part of you that still cares about what we had." She paused, her expression softening a fraction. "Of course I care about you. I always will, but I messed up. I don't know if we can come back from this." That admission hit me hard. It was a fragile moment, and I could see the vulnerability in her eyes. I felt a pang of sadness for the love we had shared, now fractured and tarnished. "I think the real question is whether I want to come back from this," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I've built a life for myself again, and I'm not sure I want to go back to what we had. Trust is a fragile thing, and it feels like it's shattered beyond repair." "I can't change the past, but I can change the future," she said, desperation creeping into her voice. "We can work through this. I want to make things right." But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. It was going to take so much more than mere words to fix what had been broken. I had spent weeks reconstructing my identity, finding purpose in my work and my life. I wasn't sure if I could afford to take the risk of letting her back in completely. It was time to decide what I truly wanted for my future. "I need space to think," I finally said, my voice steady. "I can't keep doing this dance. I need to figure out if there's anything left worth salvaging." As I walked away, I felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow. I had confronted the truth, but it was far from over. The path ahead was still uncertain, and I had a lot of choices to make. I couldn't deny the emotional burden weighed heavily on me, but I also knew that I had to prioritize my own healing and integrity first. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions, and I felt like I was navigating through a fog. I had confronted Jessica, but it hadn't brought me the clarity I hoped for. Instead, it left me feeling even more torn. Part of me wanted to believe that we could somehow rebuild from the ashes, but another part screamed at me to protect myself from further hurt. I immersed myself in my work with integrity first, finding solace in the mission and the community that was forming around it. The more I poured into it, the more I realized how much I was enjoying this new chapter of my life. But there were moments when the weight of everything would crash down on me. I would see couples walking hand in hand at the park, or families laughing together, and I would feel a pang of longing in my chest. I missed the intimacy I once shared with Jessica. Yet I couldn't ignore the fact that intimacy now felt tainted by betrayal. One evening while preparing for a workshop, I received a message from Jessica. It read, "Can we talk? I think we need to figure this out." I felt a surge of frustration. Did she not understand that I needed space? I took a deep breath and decided to answer. "I'm busy with the nonprofit right now. Let's talk later." As the days passed, I found myself constantly juggling my feelings. I was angry at her, at Sam, and even at myself for still being emotionally attached to someone who had hurt me so deeply. I began to realize that my time spent focusing on integrity first was more than just a distraction. It was my lifeline. It gave me purpose, and I wanted to build something meaningful, not just for myself, but for others who felt lost or marginalized. Eventually, Jessica reached out again, this time suggesting we meet at a coffee shop rather than in our home. I agreed, feeling a mix of trepidation and curiosity about what she would say. When I arrived, I was surprised to see her already there, fidgeting with her hands as she glanced around nervously. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice slightly shaky as she gestured to an empty seat across from her. "I've been thinking a lot about everything." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever was coming next. "Go ahead." "I want to start by saying that I'm truly sorry for what I did," she began. "I've taken time to reflect, and I realize that I've hurt you in ways I can't even begin to express. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, if ever, but I want you to know that I'm committed to changing and to making amends." "Making amends is great, Jess, but it doesn't erase what happened," I replied, my tone firm but measured. "You broke my trust, and that's not something that's easily repaired. I need to know if you understand the severity of that." She nodded earnestly. "I do. I've been going to therapy to understand why I acted the way I did. I know I can't undo my actions, but I'm working on myself. I want to be better, not just for us, but for myself as well." The admission was refreshing, but I couldn't help but feel skeptical. "What does that look like? You say you're working on yourself, but I need to see tangible changes. I can't keep holding on to hope without knowing there's a real commitment to change." "I understand. I'm willing to let you see my progress. I want to be open about my recovery process. We can find a way to work together through this if you're willing." I leaned back in my chair, taking in her words. It was good to hear her speak openly about her mistakes, but I still felt guarded. "I appreciate that you're taking steps to improve, but I need time. I need to see that you're genuinely committed to rebuilding trust, and I don't know how long that will take." "I'm willing to do whatever it takes," she said fiercely. "I miss what we had, and I want to earn your trust back. I love you, and I know I messed up, but I don't want to lose you forever." Her vulnerability stirred something in me. I had loved Jessica deeply, and there was still a flicker of that love buried under all the hurt. Part of me wanted to believe that we could work through this, but I was terrified of setting myself up for more pain. "It's going to be a long road," I warned. "It won't be easy, and I need you to understand that." "I'm ready for the challenge," she replied, determination in her eyes. "I'll do whatever it takes, just give me the chance." The conversation stretched long into the evening, filled with discussions about boundaries, trust, and the painful reality of our situation. I left the coffee shop feeling conflicted. Jessica had shown vulnerability, and I could see that she was genuinely trying to change. But as much as I wanted to believe her, I was haunted by the memories of her betrayal. I needed to protect my heart, but I also needed to decide if I was willing to take a leap of faith back into the unknown. As I walked home, I felt a sense of clarity beginning to dawn. Maybe this wasn't just about me and Jessica anymore. It was about the principles I had built my nonprofit on: integrity, honesty, and the pursuit of genuine connection. I had to make a decision that aligned with those values, not just what I felt in the moment. The path was still unclear, but I knew that whatever decision I made, it would need to come from a place of strength, not fear. It was time to think about my future and what I truly wanted for myself. The weeks that followed were a delicate dance between hope and skepticism. Jessica seemed genuinely committed to making amends, and I couldn't deny that her efforts had a positive impact on our dynamic. She had taken charge of her therapy sessions and made an effort to communicate openly with me about her feelings and the progress she was making. But even with all that, a part of me remained guarded, still haunted by the betrayal that had shattered my trust. I was seeing the shifts in her behavior for sure. She was attending her therapy regularly and even started volunteering at my nonprofit, helping with events and outreach. It was a strange juxtaposition, watching her engage in the mission I had built while still grappling with the emotional fallout of our past. There were moments where I would catch a glimpse of the woman I had fallen in love with, enjoying her laugh, her passion for helping others, and the way she would light up when talking about our shared goals. Yet, every time I felt myself getting too comfortable, a nagging voice in the back of my mind would remind me of the hurt I had endured. One evening, we had a particularly successful event for Integrity First. The energy in the room was electric, filled with laughter and camaraderie as we celebrated the progress we had made in our community. Jessica was right by my side, her enthusiasm infectious as she mingled with guests, sharing our mission and the importance of inclusivity. For a moment, I felt a fleeting sense of normalcy between us, as if we were the couple we used to be, partners in life and in purpose. As the night wound down, I found myself standing on the patio, looking out at the city lights. I took a deep breath, trying to ground myself in the moment. Jessica joined me, wrapping her arms around me from behind. "We did it," she said softly, her voice filled with pride. I smiled, feeling the warmth of her presence. "Yeah, we did. This is what it's all about." But as the night progressed, the walls I had built around my heart began to feel stifling. I wanted to let her in, to believe that we could rebuild, but I was still riddled with doubts. "I just hope we can keep this momentum going," I said, my voice heavy with uncertainty. "I promise I'm committed to this," she replied earnestly, turning me to face her. "I want to be a part of your life again, and I want to earn your trust back." Something in her eyes shifted, and I saw vulnerability mixed with determination. It was the look of someone who was genuinely trying to atone, but I still didn't know if I could trust her completely. "It's just hard for me," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I want to believe you, but I can't shake the pain." "I know, and I understand that it's going to take time," she said, her tone gentle. "I'm here for the long haul. I'm not going anywhere." But as the days turned into weeks, the weight of our unresolved issues began to rear its head again. One evening, while sorting through some paperwork for the nonprofit, I stumbled upon a message from Sam, a text that Jessica had sent just days after our confrontation. My heart raced as I read the words, her casual tone striking me like a slap in the face. It was nothing overtly scandalous, but the familiarity in her words made my stomach churn. I confronted her that night, my emotions boiling over. "You said you were done with him, that you wanted to focus on us, but you're still texting him. Why?" Jessica's face turned pale, and I could see the realization hit her. "It's not what you think. I was just trying to be polite and professional. I promise there's nothing between us anymore." "Then why didn't you tell me you were still in contact?" I shot back, feeling the anger rise in my chest. "You're still keeping secrets from me, and I can't trust you when you do that. Please just let me explain," she pleaded, her hands shaking. "I was trying to manage the situation to make it less awkward at work. I never meant to hide anything from you." "But you did hide it," I asserted, my heart pounding. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. It feels like you're still tied to him in some way. How do I know this isn't going to keep happening? I'm working on my boundaries, I swear. I thought keeping things cordial would be better for us. I didn't think it would hurt you." I could see the panic in her eyes, but I also felt the familiar waves of doubt crashing over me. How could I move forward when it felt like she was still keeping a foot in both worlds? I needed to take a step back, to protect myself from being hurt again. "Maybe we need to take a break," I finally said, my voice trembling as the words left my lips. I can't keep doing this if you're still in contact with him. I need to know if you're committed to this relationship or if you're just playing games." Her expression fell and I could see the hurt wash over her. "You don't mean that," she said, her voice breaking. "I love you. I want to fight for us. I know you do, but love isn't enough right now. I need to focus on my own healing and my work. Can't keep holding on to hope if it's not grounded in trust." I turned away, feeling the weight of my decision wash over me. I had tried to give her a chance to believe that we could rebuild, but I couldn't ignore the signs that were telling me I needed to prioritize myself. The path ahead was still unclear, but I knew one thing for certain. This was a turning point for me. I needed to regain my strength and reclaim my narrative, regardless of what that meant for my relationship with Jessica. It was time to focus on my own integrity and the mission I had created, even if it meant walking away from the love I once cherished so deeply. The decision to take a break weighed heavily on me as I walked away from Jessica that night. I felt like I was guarding my heart with walls fortified by hurt and disappointment. I had invested so much into our relationship, but the truth was that I needed to protect myself from further pain. The following days were a blur. I threw myself into my work with integrity first, finding a renewed sense of purpose and community among the people I was helping. I dedicated extra hours to outreach, organizing workshops, and supporting those who felt marginalized or alone. It felt good to be part of something that genuinely made a difference in people's lives. It reminded me of my own journey, my own struggles, and the resilience I had built amidst adversity. Jessica reached out multiple times, sending messages filled with apologies and pleas for understanding. I read them, feeling a mixture of empathy and resolve. She clearly loved me, but love alone couldn't mend the trust that had been shattered. Every time I thought about the moments we shared, the laughter, and the dreams we built together, I felt a pang of nostalgia. But whenever I remembered the betrayal, the pain eclipsed the happiness, and I knew that I had made the right choice. One evening, after a particularly successful community event, I received a call from Jessica. My heart raced as I hesitated before answering. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Can we talk in person?" she asked, her voice tentative. "I think I've finally come to understand what I need to say." I agreed, and we arranged to meet at a park where we had often taken Max for walks. As I arrived, I saw her sitting on a bench, her expression a mixture of hope and apprehension. She looked different, more vulnerable yet determined. I took a seat across from her, feeling the weight of our shared history hanging in the air. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she began, her voice steady but soft. "After everything that happened, I realized how much I took for granted. I never meant to hurt you, and I see now how my actions have impacted your life." "I appreciate that you're taking the time to reflect, Jess," I replied, my tone measured. "But the reality is, trust takes time to rebuild. I need to know that you're serious about making changes, not just for me but for yourself." "I understand," she said, her eyes meeting mine with sincerity. "I've been working on setting boundaries and learning from my mistakes. I've realized that I need to be better, not only in our relationship but in every aspect of my life. I want to be a partner who supports you, not one who causes pain." I could see the sincerity in her eyes, and for a moment a flicker of hope ignited in my chest. "That's a good start," I said, "but I also need to prioritize my own healing. I can't just jump back in without knowing that things have genuinely changed." "I respect that," she replied, her voice steady. "I don't want to push you into anything. I want you to feel confident in your decision. I'll support you, no matter what that looks like." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our conversation settling in. I felt a mix of emotions, hope, uncertainty, and even a hint of fear. Could we truly rebuild what we once had? "Maybe we could take small steps," I suggested tentatively. "Start with communication and see where it leads. I want to believe that we can find a way forward, but I need to see consistent efforts from you." "Of course," she said with a nod. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I know it's going to be a long road, but I'm committed to this. I want to prove to you that I can be the partner you deserve." As we talked, I felt a sense of clarity beginning to take shape. I realized that I wasn't ready to fully open up just yet, but perhaps we could begin to rebuild that connection slowly. The journey ahead would be challenging, but if she was genuinely committed to change, maybe there was a chance for us. In the weeks that followed, we began to reconnect gradually. I kept a cautious distance, allowing her to show me through her actions that she was dedicated to making things right. We started having regular conversations about our feelings, our hopes, and our fears. It was a slow process, but with each honest conversation, I felt the walls around my heart begin to crack. I continued to pour myself into integrity first, and I found that the more I engaged with my community, the more I felt a sense of fulfillment. Jessica would join me at events, and I could see her genuinely connecting with the mission we had built. It was as if she was trying to understand the essence of what it meant to be part of something bigger than herself. I still had moments of doubt, where the fear of being hurt again would creep in. But I also recognized that healing took time, both for me and for our relationship. I had learned to focus on my integrity, my values, and my own happiness. As I navigated this uncertain terrain, I began to realize that it was okay to take small steps. Ultimately, I understood that rebuilding trust would not happen overnight. It would require patience, effort, and a willingness to be vulnerable again. As I embraced this new chapter, I remembered the importance of forging my own path, one grounded in integrity. Whatever the future held for Jessica and me, I knew I was stronger than ever before. I was reclaiming my narrative and finding peace in the journey ahead, no matter what it may bring.